Thank you very much for inviting for this talk. Uh, Today topic is big data mining in healthcare. So big data have a different meaning for different person. But today we are going to talk in the term from the biologist point of view or a medical point of view. So let's start with this slide. Next slide. So there is a trend changing over the time actually. If you go to the history of the science, that earlier, long time back, it was a basically more experimental science. Then after that, generalizations, number of rules have come, Newton's law, Maxwell's equations, all these things. And from last few decades, there were simulations. All the computers design or everything is designed in the computers first, and then they use in the real life. Like all these satellites and all these things, they are designed first in the computers, and then they are launched later on. So a lot of simulation work is there. So computers are heavily used in last few decades. And now there is another science is coming up that's called data intensive scientific discovery. It means that a lot of data is there. A lot of data is produced by experimental scientists, and it's very difficult to make them generalized actually. Like what people have done earlier, like experimental science to theoretical science. The reason is basically it has a lot of information basically. It's very difficult to process. Even forget about the process. The major problem is even to maintain this data is a challenge. So nowadays, major focus worldwide is to handle the big data. So I will cover the what is the definition of the big data and what are the different techniques we can utilize to maintain this data, to store this data, as well as to process this data, mine this data, means to drive the rules from this data because data have limited meaning if you are not able to generalize it, if you are not able to drive the rules. All right. So now let's go for this slide. In this slide, uh, here is a example. If we go to the, just hold on, I think the screen is not in the full mode. I will just, all right, okay, all right. Let's think about it. When there was limited databases earlier, right side, you see there is a one database called PDB, Protein Data Bank. It's very old data bank. If I see in around 1986 when I joined my job, then it's hardly there are few entries, maybe 50 entries or so. And if you go to the gene bank, basically, gene bank have at that time is around 1500 or 2000 entries. I don't know the number. Then with the time, PDB has increased and reached more than 1 lakh actually. It's nearly 1.5 lakh nowadays actually. GeneBank has increased tremendously over the years, and GeneBank provides the raw data, where the PDB provides the data, protein data, whose structure is solved by X-ray crystallography or NMR, means by experimental techniques. So their growth is okay, that's the exponential growth, but see the growth of the WGS, means whole genome sequencing. It started around 2006 actually, whole genome sequencing data. And in few years, 10 years, is supersede even the gene bank actually, which is one of the old databases. So that's where the challenge is there. This is the databases are growing with the exponential rate. So there is sometimes the limited number of researchers thought big data means size of the data is big. No, there are number of things actually. That definition, these are the few definitions of big data, like in changing in the volume. For example, that volume is changing, that's the size of the data is changing, velocity is changing, so automatic machines are there, and yes, machines are there, so the speed which the data is coming is also increasing, variety of data is also increasing. Earlier we have the limited data, that let's say copy number variation, gene bank, and all sort of things. But with the advancement in the science, we have nowadays a wide range of data. Okay, so that's where the challenge is there, to how to maintain this data and how to, let's say, even making the search actually similarity search is a difficult job. So that's why we need to rethink the new techniques to manage and mine this data. That's the theme of my talk today. So this is another thing. What happened over the time? Earlier, most of the data was structured data. Earlier, most of the data was structured data, but nowadays, semi-structured data or unstructured data is increasing with the high speed. So, what do you mean by unstructured data? Sort of things means we have the information of certain fields, we don't have the information of other fields. Actually, it's very difficult to define the structure of the data. Earlier, if you go to the traditional databases, we represent by RDBS. RDBS is nothing. It's a basically tabular form of data presentation, like Excel sheet. You have the data, different columns, and then different row, and you present the data. But today time it's nearly difficult. Why? You see the postings at the Facebook. Some, let's say, Facebook postings are just thank you, or welcome, sort of a small word. And other ways, there is pictures, movies, and all sort of things. So how you will structure all the data in a single table actually? So that's where the challenge is. So how to challenge the unstructured data is a major part of the problem. Because handling structured data is not a problem. It's not a question of size. It's a question of type of data. So MySQL technology, which are used over the years, whether it is we call SQL technology, whether it's in the MySQL software, PostgreSQL, Oracle, all these softwares, they use the one technology called SQL technology. And spreadsheet, online training, all these are the part of the structure. But now, as I discussed you, that major challenge is unstructured data. How to handle it? So let's say this is an example of traditional data. How we store earlier the RDBS, Relation Database Management. We make the different tables to maintain the information of a customer. Let's say this is an example: customer ID, customer account, and its agent ID. And then we have the different tables, and these tables can be linked with some field. Here these two tables are linked by customer ID. Here these two tables have been linked by agent ID. That's why it is called relational database management system, where the each table are connected with each other. So you can access the information from one table actually to the other tables. So that's a very simple and very user friendly. And still, it's in the heavy use so far actually. But that it's difficult in future to use this database management system. We need to explore the new techniques, actually, new technology. So new technology is NoSQL technology. There is a misconception in people with the NoSQL. They thought the new technology doesn't use the SQL. That's not the truth. It's mean non-SQL or not only SQL. Here it means not only SQL. We are using the SQL, but it's not only based on the SQL. It has more than SQL. That's what you have to understand this technology. Because the main problem is how you present your data. So there are major four ways to present your data. One is in the document form. In document form, you present the data. Another is in the graph form. Another is key value pair. Another is wide column concept. So these concepts are used to store the big data or unstructured data. I will not say big data in the sign. I will say unstructured data. So let's see now because it's not practically possible for me to cover everything. So let's say I will take the example of document database, MongoDB, and how it look like that. Let's see it. So this is a concept of storing the data using the one popular software called MongoDB. I want to clarify one point here actually, that this is similar to HPC, high performing computer, or called the clustering actually, computer clustering. Why I am saying actually comparing it, if you see carefully, earlier all of the machines are basically standalone type of machines actually. There is a single machine where multiple processors are there, so all the processors are closely connected to each other. Later on, it was realized it is not practically possible to do the heavy computations or high performance computing. So people come with the concept of clustering actually, where the computers are at different place, and whenever computer power is required, then we are firing the job on the different clusters actually. Same concept is coming in storage actually, because it's not practically possible to maintain the all data at a single machine. Let's say, for example, all these Google and Facebook or Twitter, they are generating the data in few thousand petabytes per day actually. So it's nearly impossible to maintain this data on a single storage system. So data is stored on the different systems. But the challenge is how you will access all these data at the same time. That's a challenge. So here is the concept of MongoDB, where in the MongoDB we have the database, like the SQL we have the database, then we have the collections actually. Okay, so the different type of documents are there, and then we have the documents. Documents is nothing, it's basically, if you compare with the SQL, then it's a basically record basically. So this is the concept. I will go. The next slide will present it. This is the overall concept. This is the application is sitting here. Okay. So your application is sitting at this place, and it has a driver, and then it has a different storage system. So what they are doing, instead of uh, storing data and at one place, they have done the threading of the data, means partitioning of the data. Let's say I have the 20 petabyte data, for example. So I can maintain 1 petabyte at each cluster actually, or each machine. So this is threading in 20 places actually. So this is called thread 1, thread 2, thread 3, and maybe in my case thread 20 actually. Another problem is, because it is stored on the network, it is heavy chance is there that your storage is failure. Your storage may failure actually. Then what will you do? You have to maintain the other copy. So they are maintaining the secondary storage. So same data they are maintaining in the their copy and maintaining it, let's say 2 times or 3 times, depending on the reliability you want to produce. Okay, this is again the same concept. If you remember about the RAID, actually, that's a hard disk. We are using now like RAID actually. Okay. Random access array basically. The same concept is here. So same data is stored at different places. So even if one drive fail, it will and get the data from the other place. So that for you as a user, you are not worried where your data is there, but you will put the query, and the query will go to the right cluster, and then you will get the data. That's the whole concept. Conceptually, these things are not so complex actually. Only thing we have to go to the integrity actually. This is the concept how the data is stored in MongoDB or this document system basically. In document system, data is stored instead of row and column defined, which is in the SQL commonly. We define the field 1 value, field 2 and their value. Means, let's say, why unstructured data can be handled. Maybe for this document, I have only one field actually. For this field, I have a value. For other field, I don't have a value. So I don't need to fill all these values actually. Where in the SQL, even field are empty, it has to be stored at. So that's an unnecessary wastage of the space actually. So here is the advantage that whatever the data is there, it will store only that data, not extra data. Plus, sharing the documents is easy than sharing the rows of the SQL table. That's why we use the document structure. This is a typical example of a document or a record of MongoDB. Okay, so as you can see here, what we call in SQL raw here is called document, and this is the example how a raw is stored. Right. So what is there? Let's say this is a one field and column, then field value is there. If it is a string, then we take inverted commas. If it is a basically numbers, we give according to the numbers. Okay. This way, a document is stored in MongoDB. Now I will go to another famous big database management system called Hadoop. Basically, it is commonly used nowadays, and most of the people are using heavily this Hadoop system. And Hadoop is not a single system; it's a basically ecosystem. It integrates different technology that is called storage is by HDFS, Hadoop distribution file system, and then MapReduce system is just a managing type of things where you get the information where the particular piece of data is stored, so you can access it actually. And these are the different tools are integrated like scripting. So if you want to access, you have to have some command. Like in case of the SQL, we have the SQL system, structure query language system, where you put some queries, select or maybe insert or maybe create database. So here the pig is used to access the data actually. There are number of others are there. Hive also allow you the same thing. But in the pig you can do even the scripting means programming. Then machine learning technology Mahavat is integrated with this Hadoop system so that you can use it. So this is the overall system. I'm not going into that because that will require a lot of time. Okay. So this is the overall architecture similar to the MongoDB. Here we have the slave nodes, and these slave nodes have the computation or map prediction system. The one technology which is different than the other is MapReduce technology. Because this technology is heavily used in big data mining technology called MapReduce system. I will cover later on actually. This is a fundamental concept which is part of the big data mining. So what is the, let's say, this MapReduce system actually? Let's say you have the data, this type of data actually. Now you have this type of data which is basically have made this is one record, this is another record, this is another record. Now I want to store this data on the different places. So the problem here actually, I don't know what type of data is there. It's very difficult to store the data in different places and to access it. Because storing data, it's fine, you will store it. But after that, you have to access it. And if you are putting on the multiple machines, accessing them is difficult. So you should to know in advance on which machine what data is available, so that you can directly go to that place. Your computer will go to that place and will access the data. So here is the system. How they do it? They split it. First they split it, then they map it actually. Split it means they have the record, 3 records are there. So they split it into 3 records, then they do the mapping actually. How many times deer are there, how many times bear are there, how many times. Then they do the shuffling, and now they don't know the number. Bear, 2 bears are there, 3 cars are there, 2 bears are there, 2 rivers are there. Okay, so here if you see that deer, 2 deers are already here. This is one, this is another. Bear, this is one, this is 2. Car, there are 3 cars. So it's nothing, it's a basically reshuffling. But how they are storing data? They have one area where they are storing the beer related information. There is another machine which is related car related information. This is for the driver and beer related. So that help you when you are basically accessing data. You know on which machine what type of data is there. So the computation node will go only that place and will access it. That's the beauty of the MapReduce system, a very powerful technology in big data mining. Okay, so one MapReduce system versus SQL, if I take the two technology, the MapReduce system is scalable, SQL has a huge user base, SQL is easy to use. Okay, so MapReduce system is scalable, that's an advantage, but SQL still has a number of advantages because large number of users are there, they know how to use the SQL, that's where the whole problem is there. So in order to combine the two technology, there is a one concept called Hive actually. This Hive business allow you, Hive software allow you on the to combine the two technology, combine SQL and MapReduce. Okay, and you can access the Hadoop storage using the SQL type of queries. So that is called the Hive. It has the storage HDFS. MapReduce systems are used because ultimately, end of the day, whatever you talk actually, you talk any complex thing, nobody is going to care about. Or ultimately, you should keep your user happy. This is the important this is the important message I'm giving for any computer scientist or any developers. Whatever the complex work I'm doing actually over the years, who cares? User only care whether they can access the information, whether they can retrieve the data, whatever I have stored easily without learning too much. Okay. The same way here the Hive is nothing. It's a basically easy way to access the data. So I'm not going to the detail of the Hive, but what machine learning tool, what machine learning tool I should use and why I should use it. If it is simple data, simple lines and all analysis, simple type, then whiteboard is sufficient actually. You don't need to go for any complex technology. If you have, let's say, some kilobyte, megabyte data, and you want to do some processing, you want to do, then the softwares like MATLAB, Octave are most efficient actually. You don't need to use the complex technology for that actually. R is one of the best freely available software actually. MATLAB is not free, but widely used actually. So these tools are heavily used actually. That's not problem. But if data is a little bit bigger actually, then there is another technology called NumPy. So in Python, we have the number of libraries, NumPy, SciPy, Vega, Blast. All these softwares can be used for data mining as well as for visualization. Am I right? Even if your data is more than that actually. Let's say your data is in the gigabytes, petabytes or terabytes, then this technology is not going to work. Why it is not going to work? Because data is not at one place. Even to bring the data in one node is a tough job. In order to avoid it, we have to use new technologies which can be used to process the data. But in new technology, what they are doing, the conceptual change is there. Earlier, if you remember, if you want to work on a data, you want to process some data. So what you will do? You will bring all the data on your local machine, and on local machine you will write some software, and this software will process this data. So it means the data is coming to your local node, and your code is on the static state on your machine actually, and then it is run. But now in new concept, your code is going to the different machines actually where data is stored actually, and then they process there, and then the result is coming there. Because bringing the data to your local node is much more difficult than sending your scripts, sending your program to the clusters and getting the results. That's where is a fundamental change actually in the new technology. And one of the technology which do this job is Mahavat actually. It's my favorite one. I only talk about the Mahavat. So there are others are there. I'm not going to cover here actually. So Mahavat I will cover in this lecture. So Mahavat started, I'm not going in the history, you can read it anytime actually. That's not problem. So that's a concept it have. It have map reduce magic in action. Mahavat about the scalable machine learning techniques, These are the some functions. These are the other functions, the detailed functions of the Mahabhat. The main advantage it sit over the Hadoop data. So your data is in the petabytes and all sort of things. So whenever you write any command or any script, then it is going to the different clusters, and they cluster on these clusters. Your script is executed, and you simply get the result. What it is there integrated there, I will cover here. This is a 3 plus 1, 4, 5 commands are major technology are integrated here. 3C means collaborative clustering classifications. FPM means frequently pattern matching. O means other techniques. These techniques are built in the Mahabhat. Whatever I am talking, I will talking about the last year when I get the Excel data. Maybe now it updated actually. The problem here is today time actually. People like me who are old actually, it's very difficult to cope with the technology. It's changing too fast actually. So we become the obsolete in few days, few let's say years actually. But anyway, we have to survive. So we have to learn the new technology. Okay, so collaborative filtering is one of the powerful technique where you are basically doing the based on the data actually. Let's say you are going into the market and some users are recommending particular product, then you normally buy that product based on the recommendations. Okay, sometimes uh, they recommend the particular system. So basically, users are helping each other by providing the right feedback. Actually, sometimes we go to, let's say, I go to the Amazon and another thing. I want to buy a product, and I see the feedback of the users. If I find that feedback is not good, then I will not buy the product. And I have seen actually, if you buy the product based on the recommendations of the user, most of the time, product is good. This is my personal experience. You can try yourself. And these are the different technology are used in this business collaborative filtering. So they are integrated in this one. Then number of clustering techniques are involved in the Mahabhat. That's k-means clustering, fuzzy, k-means, density-based, group similar objects. All these techniques are integrated. So if you want to use it, then these are the ideas. Then there is a classification techniques like naive Bayes. All these classification based techniques are integrated in this business. Then frequently pattern matching actually they normally check what product combinations goes together. Let's say milk, bread, cheese. Normally people who buy the milk also buy the bread same time or cheese also. So these few there is some patterns are there actually. To identify these patterns is important because you have to fill in your store according to the demands actually. Okay, so you have to understand the which are frequently matched patterns actually. These are the different data mining techniques, and Mahabhat allow you to access. Please remember one thing: it's nearly impossible to learn everything. What you should do, let's say if you are interested in the big data mining, just focus on one. For example, on the Hadoop system, and take the Mahabhat. That is more than enough for you to survive in the world, as well as you can do the excellent job using this, rather than using the everything actually. There is other facilities in Mahabhat are outlier detectors, math libraries, noise reductions. So these are the some techniques already integrated under this part. So in brief, Mahabhat allow you, that's a Apache project, Mahabhat allow you to do the cooperative filtering, classifications. Most of the classification methods have been integrated. Clustering techniques, dimension reductions. That's very powerful actually. Nowadays we have to understand the feature engineering or feature selection or feature extraction or dimension reduction or feature reduction is a powerful technology nowadays. Powerful technology. Why I'm saying actually machine learning techniques, there is a saturation is going on, but there is a challenge in feature engineering nowadays. And particularly, let's say if you want to implement on the machine learning on the protein, peptide, or nucleotide sequence, you should know how to generate the features. Actually. If you don't know how to generate the feature, you cannot implement the machine learning technique. Okay. So these are some of the techniques which are integrated in Mahawar. I'm now covering few points actually before finishing my talk. Because I have the always tendency that I don't want disadvantage to the other groups, because my group is there from last number of years and we are well established. We develop a lot of software. So I want this same technology, same software should be available to the other students as well. So the other student of other groups should not feel that they are in the disadvantage because they don't have these softwares. So I want same competition with my student and other groups student. So what we are doing over the time, whatever the scripts we have developed, whatever technology we have developed, we are providing to the public free so that you can use it in them actually. Because that's the philosophy of the open source I have over the years actually. Whatever you have learned, document it and share with the public so that maximum people can take the advantage of this technology actually, rather than your technology is available to your own student or your own group actually. That will kill after some time actually. I will die, my group will die, and the knowledge will die. I don't want that actually. Because this is the problem, major problem in most of the Indian systems. We are too possessive to our data, knowledge, and everything actually. And we want to die with the data, with the knowledge, but we don't want to share with others. And sometimes we don't have the same person who can take the advantage of this knowledge, and then this knowledge goes just wasted. So if you want your knowledge, your technology, or whatever you have developed to be utilized by public, you should share with the public. So they will take it effectively. So anyway, this website is there. You can simply generate all type of protein features, peptide features using this software, which is freely available. Website is available. Okay. So these are some examples. What type of features are there? You can see almost all features in the world used for proteins to generate the patterns have been implemented here. This is another technology, GPSR Docker, we have developed it, which is Docker-based technology. You can simply access the data. And lot of tools developed by our group, script, everything is integrated in this Docker, so you can utilize it. In today's talk, in beginning itself, Sridhar will talk about the databases done by the Institute of Bioinformatics, the good job actually over time. And what I did actually here, I collect and compile all the databases or servers developed by Indian community. Because sometimes we have the inferiority complex. We feel that we are not doing the proper contributions. But this is not true. In the world, we are in the 4th position in the term of the number of databases created by India. But due to our inferiority complex, we always in the negative mode actually. We always say India have not done anything. That's common habit actually. Rather than doing something, we are just taking the excuse actually. So in order to promote our Indian science, we have collected and compiled all the resources developed by Indian minds, which is active. Okay, this is available, and you will surprise that the paper developed by Institute of Bioinformatics, IOB, has a maximum citations actually. These are the basically citation of all the databases and resources developed by Indian scientists. Okay, you can see that there is a good number of citations are available actually, and good H index. So means Indian scientists are doing excellent job actually. Now the new generation should take it to next level actually. You should not have the inferiority at all actually in your mind actually. You are as good as anybody in the world actually. And the theoretical science has the advantage that you can do anything actually without the resources. That's the advantage. Anyway, thank you very much. I will not take time. I hope I have given already 5 minutes for the question answers. Thank you very much.